If you're looking for a fish that stays small, stays peaceful, and still brings a lot of life to a nano aquarium, Pygmy Corydoras might be exactly what you're after. In this video, I'll break down everything you need to know about Pygmy Corydoras, including their habitat of origin, their ideal water parameters, how to keep them, and why they've become one of my favorite Corydora species for smaller tanks. Pygmy Corydoras, scientifically known as Corydorus pygmaeus, are a small species of freshwater catfish from South America. They originate mainly from slow-moving rivers in countries like Brazil and Ecuador. Unlike many other Corydora species that stay strictly on the bottom, Pygmy Corys are actually more mid-water oriented and will often swim in the open in small groups. In the wild, Pygmy Corys live in soft, slightly acidic water with low mineral content. Typical conditions include a temperature around 22 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius, a pH of roughly 6.0 to 7.0, and soft water with low hardness. In the aquarium, they're quite adaptable, but they still do best when these conditions are respected. Stable water quality is more important than hitting exact numbers, and they are sensitive to poor conditions, especially elevated ammonia or nitrites. My Corys are kept in water with a pH of around 6.5, and the water is kept quite acidic as I keep them with driftwood and plenty of botanicals. Pygmy Corys are a peaceful, social fish that do best in groups. Like I said before, one of the most interesting traits is that they don't just stay at the bottom like most Corys. They'll often actually hover in the middle of the water as well as resting on plant leaves. They also have a unique ability to dart up to the surface to get a gulp of air. This is thanks to a specialized, modified intestine that allows them to absorb oxygen from swallowed air. However, they can be a bit shy, especially in smaller groups or in tanks with limited cover. In well-planted setups with the proper school, they become much more confident and active. And you'll see their natural schooling behavior much more clearly. Because of their small size, Pygmy Corys are extremely suitable for nanotanks. A tank of around 10 gallons, which is equivalent to 40 liters, can work, although a larger volume of water is always better. Larger tanks give them more space to exhibit natural schooling behavior, and the tank I currently hold mine in is a 2-foot tank, which is roughly 17 gallons. A lot of people keep them in 5-gallon tanks or 20-liter tanks, and whilst they are small, I've noticed that they like the space, as every fish does, and they will be more likely to display their natural behaviors when given a larger environment. If you choose to keep them in a 5-gallon tank, a school of 6 should be kept, as this is the minimum school size for the fish and also isn't too much of a bioload for the tank, provided that the tank is well established and is not overcrowded. Pygmy Corys grow to about 2.5 to 3 centimeters in length, making them one of the smallest Corydora species. They should be kept in groups of at least 6, but ideally 8 or more. The larger the group, the more natural, confident, and active they will be, just put it that way. Occasionally, when you find them at the pet store, these little guys are sometimes sold in a special deal where you could buy a certain amount for a discounted price. For example, my Corys were $15 each, but there was a deal where you could pay $45 for a group of 4 Pygmy Corys. With this in mind, I ended up grabbing 10 Pygmies, which is actually the group you can see in this segment. These fish are peaceful and do well with other non-aggressive species. Since they are small and come from acidic waters, consider fish such as small, peaceful schooling fish. An example of this is the cardinal tetra or neon tetra. These tetras originate from similar conditions and are also peaceful with other nanofish. But since they are also a schooling fish, consider getting a group of at least 6. Other examples of schooling fish include fish such as Rasboras or pseudomogil rainbow fish. In a community tank, where the tank is kept in neutral parameters, ideal tank mates are small live bearers, notably guppies and endlers. These live bearers stay smaller than other live bearers and come with a lot of color and personality. But be careful when selecting your little friends, as females give birth once a month and can quickly overpopulate a tank if you're not prepared. If you want more of a centerpiece or like an outstanding fish, consider sparkling gouramis or even some of the other varieties. Sparkling gouramis make great tank mates for Pygmy Corydoras, as they are small, peaceful, and occupy the upper levels of the tank instead of the bottom like the Corys do. Honey gouramis are also a great option and can work due to their generally calm nature, but dwarf gouramis are a bit more risky because of their larger size and because they're more territorial. If you do have like a 20-gallon tank, it might work, but it is risky, so just take some precaution. And the larger varieties, such as opaline gouramis or pearl gouramis, are even more risky as they grow even larger and even more territorial, and they may bully or even kill your pygmy, so just be careful there. The same thing goes with bedders. They're 50-50 as they can be aggressive, but some are also chill, so if you're going to go with getting a bedder as a centerpiece, just be sure to have a backup tank where you can put him if you end up having any issues or if he just doesn't like your pygmies or anything like that. Because I have heard of some bedders absolutely hating pygmies. Shrimp are an excellent choice, and I actually have a few of them in my pygmy breeding setup at the moment, because they don't eat the pygmy cory eggs and the pygmy cories usually don't bother them. Cherry shrimp in particular are hardy and usually eat whatever the pygmies seem to miss, which isn't much, but they also look amazing with their strong and vibrant colors. The main reason I got these shrimp were actually because I rarely see my pygmies in the breeding setup unless I sit there perfectly still for like 10 minutes. So the shrimps are kind of there more so as eye candy, so I don't get tempted to throw any other fish in there that might eat the pygmy eggs. But anyways, as I said earlier, also, because the reason why I decided to add shrimps instead of other fish were because shrimps don't eat cory eggs, and in fact will likely help keep them clean of any fungus. They will in fact though chew out eggs that are unfertilized, so if you see one chewing away, the egg was probably already a lost cause. Also, pygmy cories won't really eat shrimplets, but may accidentally suck up one here or there. But if you end up keeping shrimp with the pygmy cories, just remember to add some sort of calcium supplement so the shrimp can molt, since the pygmies are likely in acidic water. I feed crab cuisine every now and then so the shrimp can consume more calcium based foods and so that I don't affect the water chemistry. I have heard that Corydina shrimp such as crystal shrimps work with pygmy cories, but since I have no experience with Corydinas, I can't really say anything because I have no experience, but yeah. To be honest, any other small peaceful fish such as Otocinclus or bristlenose plecos will work just as well. Just make sure that the pygmy cories are not bullied and can get some food, since they are bottom dwellers and sometimes miss a meal, since the more active fish up above get to the food first. Just make sure to avoid large, aggressive, or overly boisterous fish that may stress or outcompete them, or potentially even harm them. Now, when it comes to sexing pygmy Corydoras, it can be quite tricky, but there are some subtle differences. Females typically are slightly larger and rounder, especially when carrying eggs, and the males are usually slimmer and a bit smaller. You can actually see in this clip the difference between the two, with the male being noticeably larger than the male. To breed pygmies, you usually follow similar patterns to other cory species. Firstly, you need to condition the group with high quality foods such as live or frozen foods. I usually use live blackworms to condition my cories, but I've heard that live microworms are even better apparently. Also, live baby brine shrimp never hurts, and I add that to the tank every now and then, but if you don't have access to live foods, frozen foods work just as well. Just make sure that the frozen food is small enough for the cories to actually eat, since they have tiny mouths. And like most catfish, a large, cool water change may trigger spawning after conditioning the fish. But since I have shrimp in here, I actually haven't tried this because shrimp are sensitive to change. And one afternoon, my fish just randomly spawned without any triggers, so I don't think it is a necessity to do a cool water change, but it probably helps since that is a trigger for like every other cory species. And of course, maintain excellent water quality and oxygenation, especially if the water is tannin stained. You're going to want to have excellent oxygenation so that the eggs get plenty of movement throughout the water. It doesn't have to be crazy, just like a sponge filter running is usually enough for the eggs to hatch and remain healthy. Spawning often involves the T position, where the male fertilizes eggs held by the female. Eggs are usually laid on plants, glass, or other surfaces. Adults are said to sometimes eat the eggs, so breeders will sometimes separate the eggs after a spawn. But in my personal experience, this hasn't been the case, and I've just left the eggs and fry with the fish. I just make sure there's plenty of spaces for the fry to hide, just in case, you know. But I've seen a lot of other breeders just leave the fry with the adults too and have had a lot of success. So just see what works for you. After all this, I just want to say that pygmy cories are an excellent choice for nano aquariums because of their small size, peaceful temperament, and unique behavior compared to other Corydora species. The tendency to swim in the middle of the water makes them more visually engaging rather than typical bottom dwellers, although that is just my opinion, and they do add movement throughout the entire tank rather than staying in one area, when they're not shy that is. They're also hardy when properly cared for, adaptable to a range of setups, and ideal for aquarists who are looking for an active schooling species that doesn't require a very large aquarium. Overall, pygmy cories are just a fantastic addition to any nano aquarium. While their shy nature can sometimes make them less visible, and the right setup and group size, they really shine as an active and social, fascinating little fish, and easily one of the best nano schooling species you can keep. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the future.